crazy motherfucker. You don't know what a young nigga sing, you don't know what a young nigga know. You don't know I burn them things, you don't know I was selling them soap. You don't understand I was on the block so long, I was wearing the same dirty ass clothes. You don't understand I was on the block so long, I was selling cocaine in the snow. Bitch, you know where I came, and it hurt so bad, cause most of my dogs on the frame. And if you feeling like a feeling little nigga, then I'm feeling that's rated. I start fucking with them niggas, cause them niggas ain't feeling that's rated. Rated, bitch, I'm feeling that's rated. Feeling that's rated. And if you feeling like a feeling little nigga, then I'm feeling that's rated. Feeling that's rated. If you feeling like a feeling little nigga, then I'm feeling that's rated. I start fucking with them niggas, cause them niggas ain't feeling that's rated. Feeling that's rated. I'm faded.
Let's get it. Welcome to the Newage. How you feeling today?
Pretty good.
Feeling good. Antonio, let's get straight into it. Give us the rundown.
It's a green morning this morning. Everything's looking healthy in the pre-market. AMC up 1.5%. Tesla up 0.66%. GME up 0.67%. Virgin Galactic up 0.43%. ChargePoint up 1%. Square is up 0.29%. You guys' favorite Palantir is up 0.60%. Everything looking good so far.
Okay, so that leads us right into this question: are we heading for a major bull run like we seen in January this year and May, June of this year as well?
Before we start, our full disclaimer is none of the information that we share on this live broadcast is financial advice. Check with a licensed financial advisor and do your own due diligence. This is for educational purposes and entertainment purposes only. Your question was, are we about to enter into a major bull market? I would say no. I think that we're in a bubble. Some stocks has reached.
We were in a bubble earlier this year as well.
But in June. What happens is, as the bubble continues to mature, and the evidence of it, I would say, would be the repo market, right? The last crash we had in 2008, the last crash we had with the dot-com bubble, it's reached. I believe the dot-com bubble only reached 100, close to 200 billion. With the recession/housing bubble before it crashed, it doubled that, eclipsing 400 billion. Mm-hmm. We've consistently been trending over over $1 trillion in this repo market, day after day after day after day. So we've reached unheard of numbers, and we're trending in uncharted territory. So I think that the market will crash, and then we'll see a correction, a major correction, and then we'll begin to see a bull run. That's my opinion.
I'm not going to disagree with you or agree with you. I really don't have a permanent or definite answer to this. I think we continue to see volatility. So I think we continue to see big swings, up, down, until a crash comes. Eventually, I don't know when a crash comes, but I think we continue to. So that being said, it may be a huge run up, mm-hmm. and then back we go with being down.
So what you consider that? Do you consider that a bull run? Or do you consider that a bear run, or what is a volatile market, or is it just It's a volatile market.
It's volatile. That's what
right.
it is.
So that doesn't fall in.
It's bull. It's bull. It's a bull run or a bearish run.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't. You can't solidify to one side.
Right. Not in this market. I'm not sure if we'll see another big run up like we've seen, especially in January.
Right.
And then in June as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if we're going to see that, but this is the second day, or this week has gotten off to a really good start.
Very interesting week.
Yeah, very interesting.
So far.
So But again, that's what happens in volatile markets. You get a good market going, and then boom, the next thing you know, it's red again.
Right.
And then Jerome Powell's coming to speak on what, Friday?
Friday, yep.
Friday, so we never know what he's going to.
He always tends to swing the pendulum.
Right. So he could, who knows, he could crash the market for all I know. But so yeah, that's my answer to that. Let's get into this article. We're talking about the Disney World reaches deals with unions to require COVID-19 vaccinations for unionized employees. What's your thought on this, and how could this affect the market?
You know, it's interesting because that trend, that narrative is going around where, you know, it was in New York, it was in Los Angeles. We see Australia with lockdowns and things. And now Disney comes out with an article like this, making it mandatory for their employees, reach the agreement with unions, making it mandatory for their employees to receive vaccines. I think it'll benefit the vaccination companies.
Let's talk about Moderna and Pfizer. You know, Pfizer just got approved with the what was it again? They got approved for yesterday?
FDA. They got
got FDA approved.
Full FDA
for that
approved
vaccine, right?
Right.
So Pfizer was up maybe at $2, I think, yesterday. Moderna was all the way into the 400s. I'm not sure if they're in the 400s right now. But talk about your experience with these vaccine stocks.
So when I first got into the market, like early last year or mid last year, I got into Moderna at $38, and I rode it to about $57, $58, and then I got out. A little over a year later, to date, the stock has increased from $58 to, like you said, $400+. So my experience has been, on one hand, a disgusting one. On one hand, but then on the other hand, from a moral standpoint, I'm not really upset that I got out when I got out.
How much money would you say you lost on? How
much money did I miss?
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, because it's a missed opportunity.
Right.
So what is Moderna at now, Antonio? Let me see. Moderna is trading at, let me see.
It's at 411. Go
411. Ahead. So doing the math, we would say 411 minus $58 equals $353 a share. So every time we
so how many shares did you have?
I choose to keep that disclosed. I had a nice amount.
So can you give us?
I had about 50 shares. Okay, that's not much, but if you multiply 350 times 50,
right.
You know, 350 times 50, that would be $17,650.
Right. So again, let's talk about this. It was a missed opportunity of upwards around $15,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the importance of being patient. I remember when we was talking about Moderna and the Pfizer stocks, specifically Moderna last year.
Right.
We was like, what's going on with Moderna?
Because it wasn't moving.
It wasn't moving, and you had all this. This is the height of the pandemic.
Right.
The height of the pandemic, and we see Moderna not moving.
The other thing that was interesting about it, the government chose Moderna.
Right.
So they had pushed money. They allotted money and deployed it in the company.
Right. So
to usher in,
this is
the
height of the
vaccines.
pandemic. you're investing in Moderna, and I wasn't, but we both questioning like, what's going on with Moderna? Why isn't it having a major bull run like it laid ahead?
Right.
This is the importance of patience. This is the importance of
This is a good point too.
Of believing in your convictions, because at the end of the day, you could have had upwards of 15,000 off this play.
One play.
Off of one play a year later.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have just believed like Moderna is the pick, the government has already chose it, this is the stock, and then it later evolves to $400.
Another lesson to be learned in this is, to Datwan's point, is follow the money.
Right.
We knew that the government had picked its winner, so to speak, and because of my lack of patience, so to speak, it was a missed opportunity. Again, I'm not mad. It was a disgusting. So from a business standpoint, it's gut wrenching, right? Or investing standpoint. But again, from a moral standpoint, I'm not all that upset.
So that's all I had to say about the Moderna Pfizer stocks or vaccine stocks. It's crazy to me. Looking at it from a year later, it's like all you had to do is wait.
Mm-hmm.
All you had to do is wait. And this is just a huge life lessons. When you're a new investor, a lot of times it's just about waiting. A lot of times it's just about waiting.
So let me ask you this, and that's a very valid point. Where do you see Pfizer going in light of it just being getting the full FDA approval,
Mm-hmm.
all of these jobs making it mandatory that their employees, get vaccinated in order to continue their...
I believe, let me say this.
Because it's only trading at about 49 a day.
Right. Right.
So when you look at the market share,
Right.
Moderna is
and
400
again,
plus.
You know what's crazy? Yesterday, it got approved, and I was like, why did it only go up $2?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Moderna.
By the way, my nephew put me on to this stock. He bought it on my radar. Shout out Donnell Williams.
So, shout out Big Ox. So, what's crazy is yesterday I kind of slipped back into that same mindset. Like it only went up $2 off of FDA approval.
Mm-hmm.
That was shocking to me. But over time, we'll see the same thing happen with Moderna. In my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see the same thing that happened with Moderna to Pfizer. I don't know if it's going to go to 400, but we're still getting COVID scares. Mm-hmm. So other variants. So I believe it goes to 3 figures. I believe it hits the $100 mark at least.
Yeah, I can see that because, like you said, it doesn't seem like it's slowing down. In fact, we just recently, with this Delta variants, have seen increase. So the demand for it, with these employers making it mandatory, is going to spike.
All right, so let's get into Wells Fargo. This another article. It's about Wells Fargo and Bank of America. It's why Wells Fargo and Bank of America be in for a long-term breakout amid Bitcoin adoption. So can you explain that to the viewers right now?
Okay, so with the financial institutions, specifically Bank of America and Wells Fargo, adopting Bitcoin and custody in it, which means they are holding it. Their clients, institutional investors or institutional bankers are allowed to purchase or invest into the crypto asset right through Bank of America and Wells Fargo. So they no longer have to look for other options like Coinbase and other exchanges and platforms that offer it. They can do it right where their money's parked at in their these legacy institutions, financial institutions. Because of the store of value, we talked about, we compared Bitcoin to gold yesterday in relation to a store of value,
Right.
right? But with Bitcoin, increasing dramatically, in comparison to gold, I see a direct relation of benefit/profit to these legacy institutions. Again, Bank of America and Wells Fargo.
And honestly, this happened with Tesla. When Tesla put Bitcoin on his books, it was a lot of, I don't want to say chaos, but a lot of people pointing out like they got Bitcoin on their books, so of course they can beat like expectations, they can beat earnings, they can beat this and that, because I don't want to say it gets inflated, but it's not from Tesla revenue, it's from
the increase
of the Bitcoin price. So but
coupled with the revenue, that makes for great returns.
Right. So if you got these big banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and you see, and even some of these fintech stocks, we could point out SoFi.
Right.
The other day, I think Antonio was talking about Dogecoin and Robinhood. What was you talking about with Dogecoin and Robinhood as far as Dogecoin being on Robinhood's books?
I think it was like it took up.
That's
a
interesting.
third of Robinhood's earning.
It did what?
It was a third of Robinhood's earning.
So we're talking about profit. It was a third of Robinhood's profit for their last quarter reported earnings.
Right.
All because they custody it. Robinhood custody it. So that's the potential that you have in a situation like this. And that's why the banks are not ignorant. That's why they're getting in. They're gobbling up, this space, a 2+ trillion dollar asset space that has yet to be regulated.
So let me ask you this: would you play any bank stocks?
Absolutely,
right now?
absolutely.
Right now?
Yep, I would play Bank of America, Wells Fargo. In fact,
Antonio, get us some a banking rundown where some banking stocks are at right now.
In fact, Bank of America just announced that they're giving out a larger dividend.
Oh yeah,
they'll be giving out a larger dividend. So that says a lot about their profitability. My son was in Bank of America at $25. He got out at around 28. It's currently trading today at 41. This was about a year ago. A year ago. But it's increased again. We talk about patience.
Right.
Not anticipating, he had no idea that Bank of America would be getting into cryptocurrency and their dividends would be larger, none of that type of knowledge.
Right.
But again, this is the importance of research, educating yourself, understanding the industry, and being patient most of all.
So for you, would you be looking for a long-term investment into the banking stocks, or would you do those as a trading?
Me, I would look
swing trade.
Me, I would look at them as that's an interesting question. That's very interesting, because I was about to say I would look at it as a long term, but I think that they got a lot of momentum currently. With this news coming out and with crypto coming to the forefront of the financial system and economic system. So I probably would do both. I would play some short term. I would trade, play some for maybe a 6 to 8 month trading window, and then I would buy some stocks and put it in my long term portfolio.
Okay.
Buy some shares.
So Antonio, give us a rundown.
The rundown on the bank stocks.
Yeah.
Bank of America is at $40.91. Wells Fargo is at $47.61. Morgan Stanley is at $102.16, and Capital One Bank is at $169.35.
So you know what that just told me?
Talk to me.
I'm betting with fintech. I'm betting with fintech.
You big on fintech?
I'm big on fintech
Tell us why.
because it's disruptive with the banking powers. Like those traditional banks, something like a SoFi, something even like a Robinhood, you could say, is disruptive. And I believe that most tech companies, they start small, they expand wide. When SoFi started, they just was a traditional bank, but still tech application. Now they basically becoming a brokerage, and you can invest on that platform. Now you can invest with crypto. I just seen they doing like a promo where you invest, you do your first crypto trade or investment, you get $10 worth of Bitcoin. So when you're, this is the disruption I'm talking about. When you can start small and expand wide from in a digital space, I believe you got tremendous upside.
So what about? I'm gonna give you some pushback. What about the safety of it? Because there's a lot of ransomware attacks and a lot of things going on, and the narrative is that that's the whole reason that crypto hasn't been regulated yet, so to speak, is because people are laundering money and etc. It's like a unsafe territory, unknown / unsafe space to be in. What's your feelings on that?
What's the unsafe space? Is you talking about crypto? Or is you talking about fintech?
Fintech, this disruption, it's all the same. Fintech is a direct. The birth of fintech comes to me out of. No, I shouldn't say the birth. Let me slow my thoughts down.
Slow your roll, Jim
I'm sorry.
Kelly.
But fintech makes way for decentralization.
Okay.
Right? That's where the disruption comes into the centralized system. So, of course, the centralized system, the legacy banks and financial institution doesn't want to give up, market share to its competitors. As a result, like I said, a lot of the narrative has been that it's unsafe and it needs to be regulated and, laws ushered in to protect the retail investors such as yourself and myself.
I think that's BS.
Okay.
For one, I think if we're talking about are we talking about cybersecurity?
Yeah, and so we'll go right into cybersecurity, which is why I'm bringing it up. I'm going to go right into cybersecurity.
If we're talking about cybersecurity can be a threat for traditional banks just as well as fintech banks.
Okay.
So, that ain't even...
You don't see an issue with the safety?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I don't even think that's... Like, where's the data to back that up?
Versus just a narrative or a media report.
It's just a narrative or like
a media report.
Yeah, but I don't see no real evidence to back up why it's a threat to fintech space versus a traditional banking space.
Last question before we move into this cybersecurity, because there's an interesting article or developments with Joe Biden in the White House inviting these big tech companies because of the same ransomware issue. If I'm a retail investor, it's a two-part question. We're talking about the everyday citizen, and we're talking about the retail investor, someone just getting into this space. One, if I'm an everyday citizen, why would I put my money into a fintech versus the traditional banks? Coupled with, if I'm an investor, why would at the report we just talked about with Bank of America doing well, they custody in Bitcoin, same for Wells Fargo, why should I entrust my money into the SoFi space versus the traditional legacy banks?
The fintech space, you mean? You said SoFi space.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that correction and clarity. Why should I invest my money into... Take my money from what was common and was normal to me and invest it into the fintech space. And if I'm, like I said, a regular citizen, The same with putting my bank, switching bank.
So you talking about from an investment standpoint?
Both.
So from a consumer standpoint, like a client standpoint,
right? Because that's the real narrative being pushed.
The client standpoint is just ease of use. Is we good on audio? Is we good?
When you say ease of use, give us clarity. I'm with you, 100%.
The ease of use. So Robinhood, I can just go on my phone, click a button, and I'm investing into the stock market.
So we can do this through fintech.
Right.
Ease of use.
The ease of use for fintech
I like
application is just way better than traditional banking powers. So that's from a client customer standpoint.
That's huge.
From a investment standpoint, I just believe it's more upside.
Okay.
So if you can get into SoFi at under $15 and how they can expand digitally across borders.
So go ahead.
I believe it can be like Square. Square's doing a lot of stuff in Africa. In Africa.
An undeveloped country, especially when it comes to the economic.
Right. So if you can get a SoFi, even Robinhood is expanding. I don't remember exactly what I just read about Robinhood trying to expand into. But if you can get these fintech.
And Coinbase just went over to Africa. Got a $500 million.
So
go ahead.
That's the perfect example. It's so much more upside, and they can cross borders unlike a traditional banking power.
Well, I got to push back on that because traditional banking powers they've crossed borders as well. Through this pandemic, American Express.
It's not that easy for them to cross borders, unlike a.
Now, clarify that, because I think I know what you're saying, but I want us to be clear with what you're saying when you say cross borders.
When I say cross borders, I mean anything. If I'm in Africa, if I'm in Europe, if I'm in the United States, I got this with me, and they have. Like a Square, for example, they have digital products that can expand my business, expand this, that, and the third. So unlike a traditional banking power where mostly it's more domestic. It's more domestic.
Most of them are, but like Bank of America is you have global opportunity to move money, etc.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying that they're just stuck in America.
But like you say, for the most part, we're talking about the majority of the traditional banking system.
Let me say this. I always bet on, just me personally, and where the world is going. I'm always betting on what's happening digitally.
Okay.
And to me, if I'm betting in the finance banking space, I'm going with fintech because I believe what they can do digitally is greater.
Got you.
Not saying that they'll have more control than some of these traditional banks. I'm not saying that at all.
Now, I agree with that to some extent, but some of your argument, it has a little holes in it because if you notice during this pandemic, a lot of physical branches have closed down.
Right.
And you could do the same thing on your phone. Like I can go to.
Let me ask you this real quick.
Go ahead.
When the pandemic hit, who was more affected? Digital banking or digital fintech stocks or regular traditional banking stocks?
Stocks, I would say the traditional.
That's my point.
But you got to remember that a lot of the fintech, it made way. To your point, this is where I agree with you. To your point, it opened up an opportunity for the fintech space because the fintech space is still fairly new.
Right.
So it created more of a demand.
But that's my point.
Yeah, that's what I said. This is where I agree with what your point is. I just, like I said, the some of the things. The traditional banks have gotten wind of this and started following suit.
I agree, but
to get into this digital world.
I agree with that. So,
even now, like we just mentioned, with the crypto or the Bitcoin, where you could do that on Coinbase, you could do that through SoFi.
I agree with that. But he who who laughs first normally laughs last.
Gotcha.
So if they got a huge leeway into this digital space, and they are primarily tech-based products,
right.
so that's their world.
Right.
I'm betting with them.
Right.
I'm betting with the leaders in that industry over traditional banking powers who that's not their world.
Gotcha. And the last thing I'll say about it is, and I lost my train of thought. God damn.
So he lost his train of thought. Let's get into this next article real quick. CEOs of Apple. You good? You want to add something, Antonio? You over there doing a robot. Go ahead.
I was waiting for the rundown.
Okay.
The rundown
Okay, let's get the rundown then.
Thank you, sir.
Crypto rundown. Now I'm having technical difficulties. Oh, there we go.
I was about to light your ass up.
Bitcoin is at 49,000. Ethereum is at 3,300. XRP, you guys' favorite, $1.22. Cardano, my favorite, at 283. And everyone's favorite Dogecoin is sitting at 30 cents.
30 cents.
Okay, so a couple pennies off here and there.
Okay. So let's get into this article real quick. The CEOs of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon to meet with Biden over cybersecurity report. So we were just talking about cybersecurity, tech, and you said J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, by the way, J.P. Morgan is ironically invited to this tech meeting.
Right, this cybersecurity meeting. Which is
remember what I said, follow the money. It's just interesting to note that these companies who's facing antitrust laws have been invited to the White House to speak with Joe Biden to come up with some type of solution for these ransomware attacks. And JP Morgan Chase, who's not a big tech company, has been invited to the meeting.
Right. So again, what's your this is at a time where a lot of the big tech narrative versus the government narrative is popping. They have antitrust lawsuits. Lawsuits against them right now. So,
but we trust them to do this.
But right,
come up with
but
this
the
solution.
government is just going to them for. So it's the contradiction.
I love this news.
Yeah,
I love the news. I mean,
the contradiction is there. What's your take on the tango that the government and big tech is having right now?
I think that it's a control thing. I think it's always been about control, and ironically, we mentioned J.P. Morgan Chase, the big bankers, which is the heartbeat of centralization when it comes to laws, rules, and regulations. You would think that it's the lawmakers, but the heartbeat is actually the financial infrastructure. I think that a solution is already, they know that the solution can be found through the innovative tech and the tech developers. So they have no choice but to go to them. The issue is reeling them in under a narrow guideline of how they want it done, versus how the tech, they have to get the insight and consultation and solution make from the tech world, but they want it done a certain way. So under various guidelines. This is just my personal opinion, by the way.
So that's pretty much what I got from it. The government needs big tech more than big tech needs the government.
And more than what the government is willing to admit.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up. And this is what I was trying to say about the fintech space a little bit is you have these companies that are already leaders and experts in what they do. And what they do. This is their industry. And they are dominating it by far. And then you got the old, outdated government.
Antiquated dinosaurs.
Right.
Stone Age.
Right. They'll get left in the dust if they don't work with these leaders or continue to evolve in some way. So this just goes to show you, I mean, obviously they got an antitrust lawsuit going on, which again goes to your point about control and power, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. But again, to me, this shows the power of big tech.
Right.
For you to be suing me, but me still wanting to be work with you, that says a lot.
Right.
That says a lot.
So let me say this. This is the last thing I got to say. But I think it's critical because we need to understand how does this affect our pocketbooks, right? We always want to give insight on how this affects, our investments. So key context clues for everyone will be, number one, we're talking cybersecurity, right?
Right.
So this will heavily
I'm glad you're going there.
Even though it's big tech, right? Look who they invited: IBM, Google, Microsoft, Apple. The big tech companies. So those another key indicators who's coming.
Right.
And the biggest key indicator outside of it being cybersecurity and big tech would be J.P. Morgan Chase, the dollars. How much money has to be applied to get these issues fixed? So look at those context clues. Do some more research, understand the industry and the space, the need and demand, and then apply your investment dollars as you see fit.
So on that note, this is the New Age. This is Datwan. This is LJ. Welcome to it. Thank you.
Nigga never fold. Nigga, I'm faded. I jumped off the post, then I jumped off that motherfucking pavement. My time I ain't wasting. These niggas be hate. They look outdated. And the little nigga famous. You see their faces. I don't fuck with the whole sheep base. You don't know what a young nigga sing. You don't know what a young nigga know. You don't know I burn them things. You don't know I was selling them soul. You don't understand I was on the block so long ago when I sang dirty and clothes. You don't understand I was on the block so long I was selling cocaine in the snow. Bitch, you know where I came. And it hurt so bad, cold